This is a public service announcement to the parents of heavy metal maniacs all over France and all over the rest of the world, if you get to see this eventually. You must listen to what your heavy metal offspring are getting into. This is simply heavy metal music. It's nothing weird, it's nothing strange, it's nothing bizarre, it's nothing dangerous.
The 1980s, wow, what a decade, where the hair care and beauty products became just as important as the musicians' talents, with many fans loving the 80s as it was more about the fun side of life, motorbikes, hot chicks, external stimulants, all the fruits of fame and fortune. Quite far away from the streets, fields, and steel factories that birthed rock and metal, where music came from the heart and working class backgrounds.
I don't know what anybody sees in it.
Sounds like a dog fight.
I'd watch MTV all the time if there was no heavy metal.
Doesn't turn me on. I just can't understand what they're saying and I can't get into it.
The votes are in and we're listening. We're now playing less heavy metal and more of your favorite music.
Hey, all you party animals, this is Mick Mars, Six, Vince Neil, and Tommy Lee of Motley Crue. Welcome to Good Rockin' Tonight. You guys play rock and roll.
That's what it's all about.
There was nothing to rebel against, really. When you think about it, everybody basically agreed that poverty is not good, that everybody should have enough food. Everybody basically agreed that the Vietnamese War was wrong. Everybody agrees basically that communism was wrong and that people should be free. So it was no politics. The only politics there was, the politics of loud.
Music has this circular motion where what's old becomes new again. In the 1990s, things would do just that. Many artists in the 90s were starting to gain more and more focus on far more serious themes. They were beginning to drop all the hairspray and leather and hot chicks and motorcycles. In this documentary, we will explore how rock music morphed out of the 80s and progressed into the 90s by going back to its roots.
Is in a direction away from God. From our research, it's one of the largest satanic forces in the world today.
3 pastors from Minnesota, the Peters brothers, have taken on the mission of traveling the country to expose the evils of rock music.
Thank you, Lord Jesus. Thank you, Lord Jesus.
The crusade against rock music has come to Indianapolis. In a tent where the Word of Life Church gathers, the warriors say a battle prayer before the first advance on the city.
As 1990 rolled around, the pitch of the religious and moral majority attacking rock music was really getting tiresome and boring.
I'm not a Satanist. I don't worship the devil, and it takes me all my time to conjure myself out of bed in the morning, let alone to conjure the devil up.
With its coda being both Ozzy Osbourne and Judas Priest winning the fights for their freedom in legal battles, with the simplest of all defenses, the right to free speech.
And these cases that are brought against people such as ourselves have a vast background of reasons as to why these things happen, and they're nearly all related to the family environment. Nothing at all to do with the music.
Hip-hop and rap music would have to face these issues as well. Ozzy would end the 80s with The Last Laugh. As one of the loudest religious talking heads, Jimmy Swaggart, who was always proclaiming that rock music was directly tied to Satan, was caught with his pants down.
Do you consider that you're a kind of part of a dying breed of rock and roller? I mean, there aren't many rock and rollers like you that are left.
What do you mean, intelligent? I don't know, in what were you looking at that? Could you clarify that, Nicky?
Well, in terms of your lifestyle.
Oh, yeah, right.
The way that you live, your attitude to your music.
Oh, scruffy, you mean?
You are a rock and roller, and there aren't many rock and rollers like you left.
Well, there aren't many people who remember rock and roll, you know, left in the music business. What there is are people who came up post-Beatles.
get outraged. That's what rock and roll's all about. I mean, if I went on stage and people sat there going like, you know, there'll be something wrong, you know. I don't get that rush. If the kids don't respond, then I think, is it a bad show? Are we doing bad? Is it all over for me? Basically, I like to make people enjoy themselves, you know. I'm not the greatest of singer, but I clown around, you know, give people a laugh.
I'd like to talk to you about your image. I wondered if you ever...
yes.
Well, I wondered if you ever want to look, say, like Brian Ferry or Mick Jagger, you know, sort of...
Oh, yes, I'd love to look like Brian Ferry.
Rock didn't go from street clothes to Vanity Fair overnight. It was a gradual process. As the saying goes, everything was bigger in the 80s. The big hair cliché 80s came up like a thief in the night.
When I was smitten by the immediate expression of music, and it got louder and louder, and so did I, to the point now where I have to get dressed up like a girly man and tease one's questionable bangs or hair, and it's all becoming a bit boring.
The substance of the songs would be one of the biggest changes from the 80s to the 90s. A huge chunk of 80s rock fell into two categories: parties and babes, or Dungeons and Dragons. Both were very well liked, but fans could also tell it was often forced and latching on to the perceived narratives and attitudes of rock music.
Of course, I've always been known as Mr. Magic Wizard, which is dragons, demons, and all that kind of thing. But, you know, the world we live in is just, I don't think it's prepared for that kind of escapism anymore. This is a real brutal place that we all live in now, with especially for, you know, the people we make music for. A lot of younger people are facing, you know, no chance of employment. Who cares about education? What's it going to get you? We have rocket scientists on the street now, you know, begging for nickels. We've got, you know, the threat of war always, what we've done to the ecology, disease, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You know, I'm painting a black picture, but it is a black place that we live in. So I couldn't in all good conscience tell people that dream and dream hard and your dreams will come true. Sure, that's still, you know, a probability, but I really needed to write about the world that I see. And it's a very realistic and, again, as I mentioned, brutal world out there.
The religious and moral sectors in their effort to stop the quote-unquote devil's music is what made the whole counter-morality just that much more prevalent. Artists would have layers and layers of satanic and faux gothic imagery and ideology, not just for fun and living up to a character on stage, but also just to spite the moral majority. You tell kids not to do something, and they will turn around and do that very thing.
That's the icing. That's secondary, really. But this is cute. I mean, that's cute.
That's the icing on the cake.
I've never heard Motley Crue called cute before.
But
What feeling do you have towards teenagers? Do you think you have to put an image forward that they'll understand and take notice of? Do you think they take notice of?
Well, I don't just, you know, do things for teenagers. I do it for everybody, and I just only thing I really concern myself with is being honest, because I think that people hate insincerity, and I can't curse, but BS. You know what BS stands for? Use your imagination.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as you're honest with people, that's the bottom line. People want you to, they want to, you know, hear great records, they want to see great concerts, and they want you to tell them the truth and be honest with them. They don't like liars.
Unfortunately, it did get out of hand. It equaled to such a level of repetitive hokiness and became cheesy, to coin some American phrases. If you had a guitar and a skull, you were in.
Beautiful. Now you look great, Bob. That's it. Now that's heavy metal. Great jacket, excellent earring, perfect t-shirt. Now you're heavy metal. Now you are ready. Okay, now get mean and tell the people who they just saw. Go ahead.
What were they watching?
Oh, Bob, come on, they want to know who it was and the name of the song. Tell them.
Oh, that was Victims of the Future.
My game! Yeah. Now tell them we'll be right back after the commercial. Get mean.
We'll be right back.
Mean.
We'll be right back.
Got to the commercial! That's heavy metal.
You know, I was seriously encouraged going into the 90s, but it's going to be as stupid as the 80s.
Competition makes things real. Rock had this new music in the form of hip-hop and rap that came along and gave rock a kick in the butt. Certainly hip-hop and rap had its moments of cheese, the Fat Boys rapping with the Beach Boys, and the cliché way of dress, like what Ice-T was first wearing, the backwards hats and gold chains that came with the Walmart hip-hop starter kit. But the lyrics was from their real-life experiences.
We don't make a record to be controversial. We didn't make the first one to be, you know. If you want to put it in that category, take it as such.
Anything promotes violence.
What do you mean?
Heavy metal promotes violence. And we just tell it how it is.
James Hetfield said that while Load and Reload weren't as heavy musically as previous Metallica albums, but his lyrics were heavier than ever before.
You know, there's aggression in the lyrics. There's that's kind of how we were and how we live. A lot of these things aren't so literal. You know, I know kids take things very literal, but a lot of them are a lot of similes in there of things, and you know, they're deeper than just, you know, smash your head against the wall or whatever, you know. There's a lot of serious, deep thought put into the lyrics, you know.
Is it true whether medium you're looking at, whether it be rap, whether it be heavy metal, whether it be alternative, whether it be jazz, you're expressing life's experience, this is the way you want to express yourself through your art?
Yeah, you know, it's not, our lyrics, I think, help, well, they definitely help me. It's a therapy for myself, and I think a lot of the lyrics are therapy for a lot of younger people and older people who've kind of grown up with us and whatnot. There's, you know, the childhood I kind of went through was not the ultimate, you know. There was divorce, there was death, there was a lot of things that happened earlier on in my life where I was, you know, young but didn't know how to, you know, handle some of that stuff, and no one else was really around to show me.
Part of the reason why 1980s rock lyrics became so much about partying and fantasy is because rock music of the 60s and 70s had such heavier times in which they were written. People were living through the post-WW2 fallouts that had an afterlife of communistic propaganda. The big bomb could drop at any moment. There was also so much civil unrest because of the class and race systems. And walls of oppression being fought against, which just so happened to be magnified and bookended by the egregious war in Vietnam and the divisions that drove wedges between people's ideology. While the 1980s was no picnic, by comparison the world was much calmer. Excessive party music was started by the growth of disco in the mid and late 70s. People were tired with the consumption of war and politics, so people just said enough, and started dancing while blowing snow.
And I think it's only fair to ask you if the kind of music that you do doesn't encourage, in some ways, those kids to get out there and dope up.
I think that this is just from my own personal opinion on the subject. I think that as an individual, as an artist, as a member of Judas Priest, I know that I'm certainly responsible to a certain extent for what I do, which is write most of the lyrics for the songs, and of course that's where a lot of people, younger people, generally take the interpretation of the songs from. To the best of my knowledge, in the whole of this band's career and something over 100 recorded songs, we've never advocated the use of drugs. We've never told people to drink. We've never really pushed any specific area onto anyone that could cause a complaint. Well, I would hesitate to say that they haven't done that. I know that there are some bands that do go out of their way to really expand on their.
When you're up there.
Rock music being pushed into counter-morality goes hand in hand with the almost manufactured and predictive lyrics to go along with the excessive levels of faux satanic and party all-night imagery. You couldn't have the persona of counter-morality and sing about taking a nice girl out to a burger joint.
Right from day one, rock and roll was about honesty.
But 80s rock lyrics went too far into that direction. You could fake happy attitudes and fun times, but you cannot fake reality. And music about reality will always come back around and push through all the hit music that's made for cheap consumption.
Hey, rock and roll. Blue skies and down the I'm gonna get my baby back. She said, baby, I'm going away. I said, baby, don't stay. She said, oh, baby, I got them city blues on. Bring it on home. Get away, son!
And a lot of bands are turning back to the, dare I say, older style of music in rock, which has got more feel, and that's what's been lacking, I think, in a lot of bands.
You mean 70s?
No, I don't mean 70s necessarily. I mean, there's been good bands through the 80s, but there's a feel that has to come from inside you, the way you play, and I think too many people are too technical these days.
The biggest element of bringing back the down-home roots of rock was for something new to come along that had intense reflections to the past. Rock music was mostly from New York, Los Angeles, or British invaders. All three had become glamorized and commercialized, but now bands would start coming from areas that were similar to the blues musicians from the South, the slums and fields of Seattle and Iowa. On May the 2nd of 1991, a band from Seattle walked into the studios to record their first major album. Their label pressed only 46,000 copies. Without a doubt, the biggest band to revive the old and true ways as well as changing the landscape was Nirvana. Certainly they have their detractors, but one cannot deny their accomplishments. On January the 11th of 1992, their album knocked Michael Jackson's Dangerous from the #1 spot on the Billboard album chart. It was a cheap-costing album made by these three guys in thrift store quality shirts and jeans. Those such as Dee Snider have said that the influx of newer bands such as Nirvana didn't really put hair metal and 80s rock out of commission, as it was tampering off itself. As with disco music, it had flooded the market.
I think it's we don't like them. It's the fact that there's not a lot coming out that's new. Most of the bands that's coming out of there all look the same and all sound the same. You know, it's just a lucky break that they can get. You know, and then there'll be you can guarantee it's, you know, as soon as they hit success, there was another, you know, 100 bands that's doing the same sort of thing as them and looking the same.
And 80s rock becomes so predictable, and bands were being assembled by their looks. You get the right producer and uncredited songwriters.
Either that or they look right and they can't play. So many bands seem to concentrate what they look like. Yeah. They forget about the fact that you're supposed to be able to play something as well. You know, it's all very well looking like a lot of these American bands have got deals because of the way they look. Yeah. And I think it's backfired on them now because they haven't got they have to get the producer to do all the work for them. And when it comes to playing live, they just can't cut it. And they have to cancel their tours. I mean, you have to have a basics to start playing, otherwise it's a waste of time.
Plus hair metal and the whole ideology behind it has an age limit. The 80s had the lens of glitz and glamour, and people grew tired of it. Nikki Sixx actually predicted the fall of 80s rock.
I believe we're at that point right now when you get this kind of dinosaur music mentality going on where everybody looks the same, everybody sounds the same, and we're getting into that again. I think it's time for a revolution, a musical revolution of some sort. Someone's got to do something original.
I didn't like it. I still don't like it. The next generation was more about, teen angst and, I hate my parents rather than let's go out and have some fun. And
the downside was watching everybody from the 80s just go, that sucked. It was hard to accept and see. If I would go up to Hollywood, I lived in Redondo Beach. If I would go up, I would run into guys from Whitesnake or guys from Motley or guys from this band and this and that. All these multi-platinum bands, everybody's like, can you believe it? And I'm like, I can't even go out anymore. I can't hear this. You know what I mean? It was humbling at best or at worst, depending on how you look at it,
Yeah, our manager, he's so mean. You'd think he'd give me the money to get home and stuff. I mean, it's a pretty bad show when you think about it, really.
We're rolling.
Oh, here we go again. Excuse me, can I interest you? I need to sell, honestly, I need to sell this album to get back to England. It's only $100. It's put in an 8-page booklet, Capitol Records, everything. Fantastic, honestly. You're not interested? Try and make numbs up! This is really, really, really important. Oh, no. Who can I sell it to? I'll tell you what I'll do. I won't sell you it for $100. I'll give you it for $99.99. How that? If Napoleon had had one of these, he would have beaten the English at the Battle of Waterloo. I'm not kidding you. It's got all kinds of stuff, and it's got. Oh, there goes another one. I got 11 cents.
As the 1990s came, so did social issues that helped bring in more realistic songs. The environment was an ever-growing issue. Bands would perform right outside of Exxon's New York headquarters, in protest stemming from the oil spill in Alaska. Then there was the authority and abuse of law enforcement, how America could help fight famine for Africa while doing very little for the needy in America.
There's farms all over the country where the farmers can't drink their water because of all the pesticides that's been poured onto the land.
This new sense of environmental conscience also shaped the physical format of rock music. Do you remember when CDs and tapes came in long boxes? It was discovered just how many trees were cut down to make the paperboard, so long boxes became a thing of the past.
Translates, if it's all from paperboard, it translates into over 157,000 trees that are destroyed just to make the things.
Which was also another reason behind dropping vinyl records, as CDs used up far less raw materials.
Yeah, Ma, just called to say Merry Christmas. Yeah, all right, send over the new Megadeth, Metallica, and Motorhead No Remorse. Thanks a lot.
With rock fans, the love of vinyl never went away, and thankfully vinyl has come soaring back over the past few years.
Here's Paul.
Paul!
Very nice to see you, Paul.
Hello, Paul. Nice to be here. Hi.
So now, every day we meet people like you, and we like it.
It's one of the cool things about being on the road, if you like people, and you like music, and you like people that like music, well, you're in a good way, because...
No, see, like, we'll do like a radio station thing where they've got people that win contests, so we'll go and meet them and take pictures and have fun.
Here we come.
Well, I take a nap before the show.
I usually do too. Kip,
so we take a nap.
Yeah, Kip is like, I can knock on his wall and he'll be there. Shut up.
I'll be bagging some Z's on the bus, and then we work out. And you saw us working out. You saw.
Well, he works out.
I was warming up on my Stairmaster because my knee is so bad that if I don't do it, it'll break. And Rev was jamming and Paul was jamming.
Yeah, we all warm up.
And I go, oh! To get my voice to be able to go, yeah!
We'll get a bathroom in our dressing room with a door on it, which is nice.
And then I take a shower.
Which is very exciting, I can tell you.
I take one before and after the show.
He's a very clean man, Kip Winger.
You have to have a garbage can lid with you in our showers because everyone's really grabby, It's like, get away, get away.
Conan, the
shower
librarian.
We've got lots of girls in the shower with us.
Yeah.
While quote-unquote hair metal bands saw decreasing sales and popularity, other artists survived into the 90s without missing a beat. Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Ozzy Osbourne would actually see their album sales increase.
In Manhattan, rock star Ozzy Osbourne took advantage of the crowds in record stores last night to promote his new album by shaking hands and signing autographs. He wasn't bothered by comments that he was trying to cash in on Guns N' Roses' popularity.
There's enough room for everyone. I don't care. I mean, good luck to Guns N' Roses. They don't need any luck,
Also
in the shade, but British metal vet Ozzy Osbourne, who also released a new album today called No More Tears, got in on the after midnight action last night by popping up at record stores around New York City that were open late selling Guns records. Here's a look at the response he got.
Because of you, I'm attracted to older men.
All right. Don't forget about Osbourne, man. Been waiting years to meet you, man. I love you, man.
It wasn't a planned thing that to be released at the same time as Guns N' Roses. It was just a coincidence, and you've got to put your record out sooner or later, and you ain't going to sit there thinking, when are they going to put theirs out? As I said, screw this. I've been doing it 23 years. I ain't scared of nobody, man.
And while pop music takes its normal swing at the top of the charts and media attention, rock music was still quite strong.
Many wondering, is rock dead?
They say that periodically. Like, what's going to replace it? Disco?
I think whenever there's a lull in product quality, this always happens. I think that there's a lot of good bands have put out a lot of good albums. Unfortunately, they didn't sell a lot because a lot of people didn't know about them. And the bands that are well known put out albums that weren't as good. So I think, as an excuse, a lot of industry people said, "Oh, rock is dying."
I just think that there's more labels and more records and more bands than ever before. So it just makes it that much harder to sift through the crap.
There's so many different metals now. There's like speed metal, death metal, and every week there's a new one, like washing machine metal and, whatever, It's like, every week there's a new metal.
They say that metal's going to die. It's not going to die. It's just going to keep going. It's going to be getting bigger and better.
When we were making our record, we were sitting in the studio in L.A. and everybody was talking about, MC Hammer and Vanilla Ice and Mariah Carey, and everybody's going, what happened to real rock and roll and all this. And it's like, well, they were all making records at the time,
Metal sells a lot of albums. There's still more metal fans out there than darn near anybody else, and so it's still a nice comment to the state of rock and roll.
It's meant to make you forget about your homework or the fact that you just got fired from your job or you and your girlfriend had a fight. It's a legal high. It's meant to take you away from the fact that after the concert you've got to go fight the parking lot traffic. For those 3 hours that you're in our concert, it's magic time.
A trope of 1980s concerts was, of course, the explosions, lights, and costumes. Even Ozzy would go from wearing dresses designed for Sharon to his more well-known casual black. The 1990s also saw the rebirth of more stripped-down, bare-bone stage shows. Washing out all the blonde hair dye and going back to the blue jeans and sweaty hair days. The best example of that would be the hit MTV program Unplugged. While 80s rock concerts had cool visuals, the 90s proved that a band didn't need a fire-breathing dragon or Vietnam-level explosions. Kiss is a great example, as the early 90s revenge era was successful and a lot of fans' favorite era of the band. MTV and most media outlets reported that there was a huge drop in concert ticket sales as the summer of 1991 came around, but a lot of rock concerts were a different story.
Plenty of bands went out on tour this year, but not a lot of people came to see them. Ticket sales plummeted at least 25% this summer, the season in which concert promoters traditionally do most of their business. A lot of them blame the recession.
acts are just dying. Concerts are dying all over the country. This is the worst summer for concerts I've ever seen. There's too many bands and not enough quality.
In 1991, neither multi-platinum albums nor supposedly legendary reputations could support superstar tours.
You're still seeing terrible losses out there. I mean, acts that did 15,000, 16,000 people last time around, 2-3 years ago, are doing 3,000 and 4,000. That's unheard of.
Even Sting sometimes had trouble selling tickets, and Paula Abdul picked a tough year to embark on her first tour.
But the 1991 concert season wasn't a total disaster. Guns N' Roses, Metallica, The Grateful Dead, Rod Stewart, ZZ Top, and Van Halen all did big business.
People are just not stupid. I think the fans are just getting... They've seen a lot of rock for 20 years now, you know, and they've been seeing a lot of different shows, and they know who's good and who isn't.
All of us are agreeing that we're having the best time that we've ever had on a tour, on this tour.
Bands became more aware of the cost of tickets as well as the cost of everyday expenses. Fans just had less money to spend on concerts. So with less pyro, metallic contraptions, and costumes, the cost per ticket could be lowered by a wide margin. With the lack of choreography and excessive postering came the more freestyle live performances, including those mishaps that make concerts just that much more unique.